Sestawicki has to reach to keep this game going. Runner goes, hit to second, Fedor throws across. And Seton Hill has captured the PSAC Baseball Championship. A year ago, the Griffins did not even make the tournament, and all season long they focused on getting back here and making some noise, and they have done so in a big, big way as they win going away 10-0.
It was a historic season on the Hill to go along with a long lineage of historic seasons for Seton Hill University baseball. And this year, how about we do it again? Welcome to the 2024 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show. I'm Dan Flickinger with the Westmoreland Sports Network, and joining me to my left is the only head coach in Seton Hill University baseball history. He, of course, is Mark Marizaldi. In his 21st season, the Griffs celebrated their 20th season in a big way last year with a PSAC championship, hosting an Atlantic Regional and playing in a Super Regional. Maz, we have a lot to get into, but first of all, how are you? I'm sure you guys are very excited to get going this weekend.
We are. We had a fantastic fall. We've been really blessed the last couple of weeks. It's rare that we get outside for 2 weeks straight in January and February. So I think that really jacked up our anticipation and excitement for the season. We've had some live inter-squad games, probably 6 in the last 2 weeks. So we're as ready as we can be for the 2024 season right now.
Well, we'll talk a lot, of course, about the 2024 season, but I want to take you back because, again, we do have a lot to unpack here about last year. Seton Hill won its third PSAC championship in 9 seasons since joining the conference. Remember, one of those seasons was wiped out because of COVID. Seton Hill joined in 2014, so 3 conference championships in 9 seasons. The Griffins, as I mentioned, hosted the Atlantic Regional for the first time ever, won 3 games in a row to win the Atlantic Regional. Then they played in the Super Regional at Millersville, where the season came to an end. Seton Hill finished the season 48-13. They set team records for wins, hits, walks, fielding percentage, and strikeouts by their pitching staff. Individually, Logan Vittmeyer set a school record for doubles with 24. Jack Whalen set a school and PSAC record for stolen bases, and he also set a Seton Hill record for walks. Caden Wood is now the all-time appearances leader in Seton Hill history, and many others climbed into the top 5 in terms of records at Seton Hill. Vinny Rauso, Jack Oberdorf, and a bunch of other guys as well. Of course, Jack Whalen, Freshman of the Year. Seton Hill had 10 total all-conference selections and 5 all-region selections. It was quite a season last year, Maz, was it not?
It sure was. Man, that's a long list of accomplishments, and I'm so grateful I had a front row seat for all that stuff. It was, I hate comparing years. I don't want to slight any of our previous alumni that have had, been part of great teams and had successful seasons and great careers. But last year was certainly special. It was kind of the culmination of fantastic on-field performance by our team, a lot of standout individual performances, and we played our 1,000th game in history. We welcomed back 6 of our previous championship teams. It was kind of a perfect storm that didn't quite end exactly where we wanted to. We kind of got almost to the finish line, and that's a little bit of a motivation for this year. But, wow, what a year. I mean, it's certainly one for the record books. There were so many memories. But just the consistency of last year, one of the things I kind of mentioned because it's just mind-blowing, we came back from Florida and we were 500. We were like 7-7, and we ended up winning 31 of our next 32 games, won our first 24 straight PSAC games, like things that just do not happen at any level of baseball. And we were fortunate to experience some pretty special things.
Well, you guys went on an absolute tear in the PSAC tournament, talking about things that don't normally happen. I mean, the PSAC is some of the best baseball in the country. In 4 games, you outscored your opponents 48-8, including 10-0, beating Westchester in the PSAC title game. Talk about winning in that convincing fashion and just what got you guys on that roll last year.
You know, as a coach and as a team, you strive every game to play great in all 3 facets: pitching, defense, and offense. And very, very rarely does that ever happen, that, you know, you're outstanding in all 3 areas in a game. And we were outstanding in all 3 areas for like a couple months. And, you know, I guess what happened in the PSAC tournament, it wasn't surprising when you look at how consistent we were, you know, leading up to that. But we had a little bit of a hiccup. You know, the week before we had a really hard-fought series against Mercyhurst that, you know, we lost the 2 games for the first time all year, and it was like we didn't even blink. Didn't affect us one bit. We just walked into Slippery Rock and just clobbered everybody. But it's so rare, you know, to play at that level, you know, because you're playing the 7 best teams in the league besides ourselves. It wasn't like we were playing any cupcakes, and we played in such dominant fashion. I had to kind of pinch myself and remind myself, like, this doesn't happen very often, that you just pitch outstanding, play incredible defense, and have just a relentless type of offense for 4 straight games. So we were feeling good. I think we could have beaten anybody that week.
No doubt about it. And you win the PSAC championship, and then you get to host an Atlantic Regional. And I know there was some, you know, disappointment that you didn't get that number 1 seed in the region, and maybe we'll get into that in a little bit. But you had a chance to host an Atlantic Regional, and I know I want to talk about what happened on the field in a moment too, but just everything that went into that, the hard work that went into it behind the scenes by you and a lot of administration. We were really proud, too, to be able to broadcast not only your games, but all the games of the Atlantic Regional. It was a lot of fun. Made it a little more fun with those 2 wins over Hearst the last day. But just the pride that I know you took in Seton Hill getting a chance to host an Atlantic Regional.
Well, I certainly wasn't, you know, solely responsible for that happening. Obviously, our players put up a great regular season, and then a lot of people here at Seton Hill, in particular Chris Cook and Jason Green behind the scenes. It wasn't just that we hosted, but I thought we hosted in a first-class manner. I mean, you've been around our program for so long. You've been to just about every one of those 12 regionals we've been to, and I think we did as good a job as anybody could ever do here at Seton Hill. So it was a great experience for us to be able to host. But like you said, I think we provided a great experience for all 4 teams that were there. And I'm, you know, I'd be lying if I didn't say I had that dream or that vision of that happening years and years ago. I mean, we joined the NCAA back in 2007, and since that day, you know, it's always been a motivation for me to number 1, get to the postseason every year, but 2, like, to have the opportunity to host. And fortunately, with the format, right, a few years ago, when the NCAA went to super regionals and split, it then gave facilities without lights the opportunity to host a regional. And I remember as soon as that change happened, you know, I think that's right about the same time I said, we've got to get a new press box put in.
Yeah.
And we got that in, and we took care of business on field, and we kind of made a long-term, I guess, a dream come to fruition, and it was pretty awesome, and I hope we can continue to host.
Plus, you saw icicles forming on the broadcasters, too, is another reason you wanted to get that press box, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Just to keep everybody comfortable.
And because of that, and maybe that's not the only reason, but do you like then the new format instead of all the teams going to one place for a regional, or do you like this new format?
I think the new format is tougher. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's another weekend, and you get through a regional, which our regional, I know it was only 4 teams, but it's not easy, right? Especially you dropping that loser's bracket. You got to really work your tail off to win that thing.
Well, 2 years ago, Millersville lost, right? Their regional, I believe, at
sure.
home. So,
yep. Yeah. So I think it's tougher now, to be honest with you, with that extra round, because you got to really win 2 weekends. But I honestly think I really enjoyed the previous setup where it's 6 teams, 1 site, and the best team goes. I think that really tested your pitching depth.
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more than this new format. So, but at the end of the day, with this format allowing us to host, it gives you some really extra motivation to get one of those top 2 seeds every year.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons with it. So let's talk about what happened on the field in the regional, Maz. You guys lose to Mercyhurst in probably one of the most bone-crushing ways imaginable on a walk-off grand slam. So then you're up against it. You have to beat East Stroudsburg, and then you got to beat Mercyhurst twice in one day in order to win the regional. And what do? You go out and you do it, and you were losing. I was actually watching back to a couple of broadcasts last night preparing, and you were down to East Stroudsburg before tying the game. Owen Sable hits a massive grand slam. Then you look at those games against Mercyhurst, Andino Vecchiola with a massive pitching performance, Jared Dowie and a bunch of other guys did it on the hill. Max Mandler with a huge home run to kind of put the game on ice a little bit in that second game against Mercyhurst. So there's a lot of guys that stepped up.
Our guys believed that they were the best team in that tournament, and regardless of beating Shippensburg in Game 1 or losing to Mercyhurst in Game 2, it didn't change what they set out to do, and it was to win that tournament here at home. But of everything that happened last year from start to finish, probably the most proud I am of our team is how they responded to that loss on our home field. Like you said, it was crushing. We were a few pitches away from just going 2-0 and riding into the regional championship. And I mean, it happened so quick. Free base and bunt hit, and bases are loaded, home run within seconds. And just, kind of losing maybe to a rival in the way they celebrated, and our guys had to sit there and watch that on our home field. It just speaks to like the focus, resilience, togetherness of our team to just say, yeah, that was tough, but we got to get up tomorrow and either win and keep playing or go home for the rest of the summer. And we were down in that next game against East Stroudsburg.
Yeah, 2-0. Yeah.
Yeah, I know most of the parents were an absolute nervous wreck. And, I tell people, if you were in our dugout during that game, I think it was 5th inning and we're losing, there was not an ounce of panic. So I look back and I was kind of glad, and I know this is crazy, but I was kind of glad that we took that loss, because it just made us tougher and made our road more challenging. And it gave us an opportunity to come back and beat them 2 more times, which was pretty enjoyable.
And it helps in the future, too, going through that adversity into this year with so many guys coming back, too. So you can certainly take positives out of that. You go to Millersville and, things don't work out for you. Millersville, I mean, obviously a great team. But you had played a lot more games than they did. They were 1-out in the PSAC tournament. They only played 3 games, I think, in their regional. You played 5, including those 4 then in the conference tournament. So, you're looking at 9 games to their 3 or 4. Do you think that played a factor into it? And I know I asked you this last year, but in terms of, Millersville getting the 1 seed, you guys getting the 2, and there was a lot of talk, about that too.
Yeah, quite honestly, I mean, certainly don't want to make excuses, but I do think that took a toll on us. We were game number 59 in the season by the time that regional ended, and 9 of those were in the last 12 days, and they were emotional too. It's not just a physical toll, it's the roller coaster of the postseason. The emotions that we had gone through in those 12 previous days, and at the end of the day, Millersville was a better team than us that weekend. There was no question about it. Were we fatigued? We appeared to play that way a little bit, but they beat us. I thought our resume may have been a little bit better, but it gets decided on the field, and that weekend they certainly earned their way into the World Series by ending our season.
Well, we're going to talk about this year's team in a moment, but I want to talk about some of the big shoes that you guys have to fill. Obviously, you're bringing back a lot of players this year, which is terrific, but you do have some key losses as well. Vinny Rouso, Logan Vittmeyer, and Caden Wood in particular I want to talk about here. Vinny hit a scorching .413. He played in every game last year except for 1, which is crazy. He was incredible down the stretch. Vittmeyer, I mentioned earlier, record for doubles in a season for Seton Hill, 24. played first base where he didn't have a ton of experience and was great. And then, of course, Caden Wood was so dependable, so versatile, Maz, as a starter, reliever. You had him as a closer. I mean, he just did so many different things, and he was a true leader on the team. Talk about those three and kind of the legacy that they'll leave behind.
Whew.
And Logan was only here for a year.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he was tremendous.
Yeah. First of all three of those guys were very strong personalities. Even sitting up in the press box, you know, you could pick out that's Vittmeyer's voice, that's Caden Woods, and that's Vinny's, and those three voices pretty much didn't stop all game long. They provided tremendous leadership. Obviously, their statistics speak for themselves. They're a huge impact on our winning. But they were just like great personalities, great leaders. They were guys that a lot of the younger players looked up to and followed. So not only will we strive to kind of replace their production on the mound and at the plate, but also to replace like their presence, their leadership, their character, all that. But yeah, those three guys, I know it's only three, but I feel like it takes about 6 or 7 or 8 guys to really replace those three guys.
Well, and a couple of other losses, Maz. Kevin Voppel, congratulations to Kev. He was drafted by the Miami Marlins, put in such, so much hard work to get there. He drafted 16th overall in June. Unfortunately, his Seton Hill season and career came to a quicker end than what we wanted to with an injury. I know he got, surgery, so hopefully he'll be back and pitching for the Marlins organization very soon. And then Blake Barker, kind of unexpected, looking around the transfer portal, and Virginia came at him with a big package, and there he goes. He's at Virginia now, and you mentioned he might be their closer this year, which speaks to the great season that he had and, all the hard work he's put in as well. So a couple of losses on the pitching side too. Yeah,
and I think had Kevin not been drafted, I think his plan was to recover from his injury and come back and pitch for us. Mm-hmm. And obviously we thought Blake would be back too. Be nice to have those guys. But Blake had a tremendous opportunity that I think will, help propel him into professional baseball. And Kevin's already there. So, we're rooting both of those guys on from afar this year.
Well, let's turn our attention to the 2024 Griffs. This is the season preview, by the way. Thank you so much for being with us here. But, again, you have a slew of players returning, nearly everyone from last year other than those guys I just mentioned. So what kind of vibe, Maz, are you getting from an experienced team right now, getting set for your opener?
They're excited to get back on the field, and I feel like since they got back on campus in September – they've been excited to get back on the field. Well, obviously, after such a tremendous year last year, and I think there's a little bit of sting still left in some of the returners that we got all the way to the doorstep and just couldn't finish the deal to get to carry. So I'm sure there's a little bit extra motivation to just get that little bit further this year. But there seems to be a very kind of business-like approach to things, which is obvious with having a big senior class that's been around for a while and accomplished. But I also think it's been a really good standard that's been set by those returning older guys. I think our younger, our freshmen and some of our newer players have just kind of assimilated themselves right into the flow of things and have fit in really well. So we have a fantastic group. These guys put up a 3.47 GPA in the fall. I think that kind of speaks to the fact that, we have some guys that are here that are very focused, very driven,
I certainly
motivated.
think we have to stress that, too, because you guys have dominated in the classroom in the conference, too.
Yeah, we have. And, we ask a lot out of our guys to just be really, really outstanding in the classroom and in the community on the field. And I think, I'm a big believer in how we do one thing is how we do everything. And, if how they perform in the classroom is any indication of how they may perform on the field this spring, I'm pretty excited.
Well, let's start breaking down the positions, and we'll start on the offensive side, and why not? We'll start at catcher, where things are interesting, certainly. Vinny, a major loss. I know he stays on as a coach, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Looks like Braden Durham, as will kind of start out there. He's been mostly an outfielder here. Did catch a little bit last year, and I know bullpens and things like that. But what has the transition been like for him back to a full-time catching position?
Well, to be honest with you, that's his primary position. I think when he was at USC Upstate, they kind of tried him in the outfield a little bit, as we did too a couple of years ago. To be honest, he would have caught a little bit more last year, but with Vittmeyer come in, having a little flexibility, Vittmeyer caught it some early. But that is Braden's, his true primary position. Most of his action came at DH last year with Vinny behind the plate. But I think he's very prepared. He knows that, he's the guy that we're going to count on to be our number one catcher this year. He's put a lot of work in over the summer, fall. He's getting really made an extra effort to get acclimated to all the new pitchers. So we anticipate him, handling the bulk of the duties. And when he's not catching, he'll probably be in a lineup in some fashion as DH. And probably our second most experienced guy back there, although he doesn't have a ton of game action at catcher, is Cam Caldwell. He's been versatile. Came in as a catcher his first year. We kind of used him more as an infielder last year. He had some starts at second base. But we're just shifting him back behind the plate to give us a little bit more experience back up. And then Kepler Roden's back. He was injured last year. Athletically, he's a freshman. He missed all last year with an injury. And then we have 3 other freshman catchers that we're really excited about. They're a young, tough, physical, athletic group. Jacob Haynes, Tate Minich, and Heath Fetchick. I'm sure that a couple of those guys will see action at some point. I don't foresee Durham catching as much as Vinny did last year. We'll find ways to give him a break behind the plate, yet keep him in the lineup. So we have some depth behind the plate. Not a ton of experience, but what I think is a lot of athleticism and talent back there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, and I guess you kind of answered the question of, Vinny caught almost every game last year. Do you expect to get those younger guys into the fire immediately on, the back end of doubleheaders? Is that kind of what the plan is early, you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. We have that JV schedule too, so there's going to be ample opportunities, at least for those 3 freshmen and Roden, to kind of get their feet wet. To be honest with you, Jacob Haynes is a pretty physical hitter.
Yeah.
So he may, find himself getting a few more at-bats than some of the other freshmen, but we're going to try to work all of them in behind the plate. They've really grown a lot since the fall, and we're excited to see all those young guys progress.
Well, I had a chance to watch Haynes at Penn Trafford. Not a lot, unfortunately, because of the injuries that that he had in high school. But if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a really good player for you.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's the catcher position. Let's go to the left side of the infield. And I don't know if you know this, Maz, but Jack Oberdorf is back, and Owen Sable is back as well. Those 2 guys, they're decent.
They're okay.
Program record 980 fielding percentage for Seton Hill last year. Those 2 certainly were the catalysts. How much more at ease does it make you as a head coach knowing that those guys are back and pretty much any ball hit to the left side of the infield is probably an out?
Yeah, how spoiled have we been, man?
It's been
unbelievable.
Incredible.
Both of those guys came in as freshmen, we forget, and beat out seniors.
Yeah, that's
true.
What
I mean?
Yeah.
And they haven't budged since. Mm-hmm. And boy, they've spoiled our pitching staff. Some of and you've been around long enough. It's not the fact that they're just good players; they're like highlight reels. Mm-hmm. And we take that stuff for granted because we've seen them play so much. But one last ride with those guys. Really excited to have them back. Obviously, they're great players, but I just think them being here on our team this year makes everyone else better. We have a couple of very good young freshman infielders that they probably won't displace Owen and Jack, but the fact that they get to work with them every day, I can see how much better it's made them. So their impact is far beyond just statistics. And man, I'm really excited to watch them again on the left side. Best left side in the country, I'll say it.
No doubt about it. I think it was last year too. Let's talk about statistics, though. Give them what they earned. Jack hit .343 with 15 home runs and 57 RBIs last year. Owen, .351 batting average with 47 RBIs. I mentioned Owen's big grand slam against East Stroudsburg. Jober went on an amazing tear in that PSAC tournament. How have you kind of seen those guys evolve even more, maybe, from last year to this year? I mean, they've been here now for 5 years. I don't know how much more they can develop, but have you kind of seen even more coming into this season?
No, they're the same guys.
Yeah.
Which, you have a guy who's a fifth year, 23 years old. It's really easy for guys like that to kind of just be like, I know what I need to do. But, and this is not a slight to anybody else on our team. I don't know if there's two more dedicated guys. Like,
the hunger's still there is what you're saying.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yeah, like Owen and Jack they hit 7 days a week. They're at the field nonstop. Which is awesome because it sets such a great example, and it helps our younger guys realize, like, there's no shortcuts. Like, they're not good by accident. They're not good because of just, some athletic gene that they got. Like, they put in the work each and every day. They didn't come back, with that, like, well, I guess I'll play my fifth year. I have it. Like, they're highly motivated to win this year, and you can see it just by the way they work.
So you mentioned some other guys, in that mix. I know that, it's going to be Jack and Owen for the majority of the season. They're not going to come off the field very often. And I think I asked you this last year, but with this being their final year, do you have more urgency now to maybe if you guys are up big in a game or non-conference or something to get some other guys some innings? Or is it a case of like, hey, we're going to roll with them all year and worry about next year?
Yeah, you try taking Owen Sable out of the game. See how that goes. No, I mean, if there's opportunities for us to rest them, we will. But, like, there are also guys that I tell them, like, you need to take a day off. No, I'll be fine. So, yeah, they're just going to keep playing.
Yeah, right. That ends that. Yeah. We'll talk about those other guys, though, Matt, that you kind of foresee, maybe, JV games, that kind of thing, or having, that had good falls and are having a good preseason.
Well, one guy kind of fell on our lap, Joe Alcorn. He was the starting shortstop at Alderson Broadus the last 3 years. Unfortunately, they closed their school. His father lives in Greensburg. He's a local South Fayette kid. There was a lot of things pointing to this is a great place for him and he's a really good fit for us.
Did Bubba recruit him?
Not really.
Okay.
Actually, crazy. I actually
went
to high school with his mom. So
wow. Okay.
And his stepdad, so there's a connection there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's different though. Like Joe played shortstop for 3 straight years at Alderson Broadus, and we've had that conversation, before he came here. I'm like, we have a pretty good shortstop too. I don't know if that's going to be your spot. And Joe's just like, yeah, that's okay. I want to come in and compete. And so he has, he has the versatility to play anywhere in the infield. And he gives us a great candidate to play second base. In that position in particular, I think, I don't want to say it's going to rotate, but there's some really good players competing essentially for that second base job. All are capable of playing short and third as well. But Joe Alcorn will be an awesome one. Obviously, Joe Fedor had a fantastic second half of the year last year, earned the second base starting job. He's back, and he'll be competing at second base again. And then two freshmen, one in particular, Owen Mandler, has been really, really good offensively.
Yeah, I had a chance to watch him in high school. Very good. He was very good.
In the fall and lately in the spring, he's been one of our best bats. He also has athleticism to move around. He may be a candidate at second base. And Owen Henney was a shortstop in high school, versatile athlete. He can really pick it and play anywhere on the field. And then Owen Yoder is another middle infielder that we have. Played shortstop, has a versatility. So, those 3 freshmen will probably play a ton of all the JV games, but I see all of them being in the mix too, most likely just battling for second base.
Well, at first base, we mentioned Logan Vittmeyer's loss. He was here for 1 year and was terrific, transferring from Marietta. But Eli Snyder returns now as a senior, Maz, and I know there's been a lot of potential, with Eli. He hasn't quite put it together yet. What type of fall did you see from him, and who else is in the mix at first base?
Well, Eli was coming off a great summer. He was an all-star in the Great Lakes League, so it was really good to see him go out and have success and continue to build his confidence. He had a really good fall, pretty consistent, good leader, very vocal. I think he's going to be competing against a couple other guys. Matt Frazetta, a junior, got a little bit of DH time for us last year. Matt is a corner guy. He can play third a little bit. and he'll be competing at first base. And then really two other guys that were around last year that we've moved around and would continue to move them outfield and first base, Colin Marinpitro and Colin R., two left-handed bats. So we kind of have two right-handed options at first, two left-handed options. It may be a little bit of trial and error the first, third of the season. Let those guys battle it out and see who wins the job.
So that's the infield. Let's head out to the outfield where we have to start with Jumbo. Jack Whalen, what an incredible year for a freshman last year. PSAC West Freshman of the Year. He hit .332. He broke a PSAC and Seton Hill record with 52 stolen bases. He led the PSAC in runs scored with 64. He was tied for second in walks with 44. And his biggest accomplishment, he made SportsCenter last year. Shot at Jack, actually, was the quote. I loved it. I might have to use that. Freshmen aren't supposed to do that, man. How did he do it? I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And we've had some really good freshman performances. I think back to, guys like Craig Lewis, and I'm sure the McCarthys, probably all of them had big roles, as freshmen as well. Nick Sell had a big freshman year. I mean, the list goes on. But what Jack did last year, I mean, freshmen aren't supposed to do that.
I think it starts with just a fearlessness of the way he plays. I think that's what separated him as a freshman compared to other kids as a freshman. Like, as a freshman, you're a little bit overwhelmed, and it's a little bit tougher roller coaster of a season in college. And Jack, he ran like crazy on the bases. He's diving all over the place, fearless at the plate, just amazing the season that he had. He helped us in so many ways. As you saw, it's not even just about the amazing catches he makes. It's about the catches that he makes that should be amazing, that he makes look easy. Yeah. Probably one of the most impressive things that he did last year, I think he had twice as many walks as he did strikeouts. So that jump going from high school to college, especially on the PSAC, you're seeing some pitching you've never seen before. And for him to make such great decisions at the plate.
As a freshman.
Yeah, and obviously that jacked up his on-base percentage, and he had great hitters behind him. He never tried to do too much. He really understood ways that he could contribute to the team, get on base, steal bases, play great defense, and he just excelled at that.
Yeah, and his command of the strike zone is something that really impressed me, again, as a young player, because you don't see that very often, especially at this level.
And quite honestly, it's an innate ability. We work on it, and we try to teach it, but, Jack had that from the time he came in here, a fantastic understanding of the strike zone.
And how much of an edge does it give you? Obviously, you've been an aggressive team since day one here at Seton Hill. That's part of your DNA. You're aggressive on the bases. To have someone like Jack doing what he's doing, and you have some other guys, too, that can steal some bases, certainly. How much of an edge does that give you? Because that's right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, he was born to be a Griffin, right?
Yeah, right.
He has the speed, but he also has the tenacity and fearlessness, and it's amazing how he reads pitchers and the jumps that he gets. I don't know. Like I said, it's just an innate ability that I think he was born with, and it's really helped our offense for sure.
I think Laura taught him how to do that, actually.
Perhaps.
How to get good jumps.
Perhaps.
We'll give her a shout-out.
Yeah.
She loves the show. Another top returner in the outfield, certainly, Max Mandler. We talked about his brother Owen, who's a freshman now. And maybe Max flew under the radar a little bit, but he was incredible last year. He tied for second on the team with a .351 batting average, had 15 doubles, 40 RBIs, and again, that massive home run against Mercyhurst in the Atlantic Region Championship. And, he's been a versatile kid too, Maz. We saw him in the infield, in the outfield. He can DH. What are your expectations of Max this year now in his junior year?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I think you said under the radar guy, 10 all-conference guys, and I don't think Max was one of them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If he's on another team and hits .350 with 40 ribs, he's first-team all-PSAC, right? He was a little bit of a victim of being around some older players that maybe other coaches in the league knew about more and voted for. But this is a question, I think you ask me this every year, who is going to have a breakout season.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I even wrote that down for some reason.
See, now I'm asking the question.
I like it. Yeah, let me answer that.
He'd be my pick, though.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say Max is going to have a breakout season because he's gotten just really, really much better every year and had a great year last year. But And I hate talking about what like expectations on kids, but I'll just say I'm very confident that Max is going to have a really good season. And I think other people in the league will be hard-pressed not to vote for him for all conference this year. Yep.
Noah Sweeney, another returner who really had a nice end to his season. I was looking back at his stats. Last 15 games of the season, he had 14 hits, he had hits in 14 of those games. So 14 of his last 15 games of the year he had hits in. Really came on and became a nice contributor for you, didn't he?
He really did, and it took a while. You know, that last year was Noah's second season, and I think it just it took him a while to figure out what type of player he was, right? He's surrounded by, you know, one guy in the outfield that hits for a ton of power, and another guy it's like, you know, Waylon just crazy speed. And Noah's kind of in the middle, but the more he played, the more he kind of learned about himself, like what he was really good at. And then by the end of the year, he just focused on what he was really good at. And he got away from trying to do too much. And you saw like, you know, a lot of bunts and stealing bases. His defense was tremendous. He was hitting the ball the other way. And that was really fun to see his evolution into the player that I guess he was born to be, you know, and he was the 9 hitter, but like you said, he was on fire at the end of the year. It was really nice to have that late season production at the bottom of the order.
A few other guys return that saw some time in the outfield last year, Maz, Jared Dowie, Mikey Gregos, Aiden Shepard, who is coming back from an injury. Didn't know if you'd have him this year, but he's back. Nate Durinsky, another one, and I'm sure there's some other outfielders that you can kind of mention, but talk about those guys a little bit.
Yeah. So Shepard, just a gruesome injury in the fall. I didn't even anticipate him being back to play this season, like fractured his wrist into pieces. And he's back swinging by January. It was unbelievable. He's such a tough kid. He's a great leader for our team. I'm hoping that, you know, he continues to make a positive impact on the field and in the dugout. Durinsky's battling a little bit of an injury right now, as is Dowie. And Dowie's, you know, he's really, I guess, the only true two-way player that we have right now. If he's healthy, he plays a massive role out of the bullpen for us. He hit really well last year. He's an elite defender, so we're hoping to get him healthy. He's got a little bit of a shoulder injury. And Durinsky's got a small fracture in his foot. He might be out a few more weeks. But those are both guys, Durinsky and Dowie, that when healthy will absolutely be in that mix in the outfield. You know, we anticipate Waylon, you know, patrolling center field for most of the games, and we anticipate Mandler's bat being in the lineup for most games. And again, Sweeney had a great year, but we do have some depth and some experience out there. Mike Gregos is another guy that got some spot starts early in the season last year. Good defender, good energy guy. You know, he'd be another guy that would be in the mix. Shepard, Dowie, Durinsky, Gregos. And then we have some younger guys. Gage Wheaton, a local guy from Hempfield. He had a tremendous fall for us. One of our top hitters. He came in and banged around some of our better pitchers, so he shows a lot of promise. Being a freshman, you know, he's got a couple of older guys ahead of him, but we're excited about him. Morgan Billett is another freshman left-handed hitter. Him and Wheaton probably get a lot of action on the JV. Hayden Boble, sophomore left-handed hitter, got most of his time on the JV last year. He had a pretty good fall for us. He swung it too. So we kind of have a mix of some outstanding defensive guys in the outfield and then some really good hitters that we can mix and match a little bit.
So that's a look at the offense, and very exciting certainly to bring back a lot of players. But as we move to the pitching staff, obviously Kev, you know, a big loss, and Blake Barker, a big loss. But you return your top 4 starters that you had to end the season in the rotation. You know, talk about a coach's dream to have the left side of the infield coming back. Also must be a dream to have, you know, the guys you have coming back as well with Brandon Berger, John McCullough, Aiden Layton, and Andino Vecchiola.
It's a little bit scary for the other teams in the league, honestly. But it's quite a luxury for Coach Martin and myself to go into the season knowing that not a whole lot will change in our starting rotation. Obviously, our bullpen's a little bit different, and that's where I think Mike Marinchak will play a really big role for us out of the pen. He's got, being a senior, he's pitched in some big games. He has the mentality to fill those leverage situations that Barker and Wood and even Nash Bryan had filled in the past. Mike got to see those guys pitch and what it took to close out games, and I think he's ready to fill that role. One guy was injured, and we're excited to have him back, probably not until April, was Ian Korn.
Yeah. He's
a guy that, threw some leverage innings as a freshman,
and
he got hurt early last year, but I felt like he was on a trajectory to be, a really important bullpen piece for us, and his recovery's going really well. Probably another, month and a half, and he'll be back. That'll be a nice kind of late season shot in the arm for our bullpen to bring Ian back. We have an extensive pitching staff, so I got to make sure I don't miss anybody here.
Wait, let me stretch. All right, we're good.
Matt Blanchard had an outstanding – he was an all-conference guy at Bryant and Stratton Junior College last year. He was their top pitcher. We brought Matt in to give us a little bit of experience and depth in the bullpen. Madden Boehm was a redshirt last year. He's shown a lot of improvement, especially physically. Again, some of these bullpen guys are really good pitchers for us, but – so is our rotation, right? I think innings might be hard to come by when you have 4 seniors and then another senior closer. So we're trying to find, innings for these guys to continue to develop. Tony Batteri is a freshman. He experienced a little bit of an arm setback in the fall. He'll be a JV guy once he gets healthy for us. Luke Deschennes is a guy that redshirted last year. He's a guy that we really see being in the mix for us as a potential midweek starter. And most definitely a leverage guy out of the bullpen. Upper 80s, he's got pretty good off speed, good physical kid. Derek Fravel was a guy that I felt like we used him really well last year, giving him a taste of, a lot of conference games. He pitched in the Supers. I think he might have thrown he pitched in the conference tournament. He's got postseason experience as a sophomore. Didn't throw a ton of innings, but he was out there, and I think he's probably one of the guys with Barker and Wood gone that has a little bit of experience pitching out of the pen, and he'll be used in those same type of situations this year. One guy, another sophomore that didn't throw a ton for us last year, but I feel like has made significant jumps, is Evan Rossi. Right-handed guy, he's worked his tail off the last probably 12 months and really kind of elevated his game. His stuff has got a lot better. Again, as we, I don't want to say have question marks, but when you lose 2 really big bullpen pieces, I think he's one of those guys that has made a really strong case to fill those innings out of the pen. Another guy with a ton of experience is Jack Laird. That's where he's maybe a little bit different than some of those other sophomores. Jack's pitched again, not a ton of innings, but leverage situation. He's been in postseason games. He's definitely a candidate that could be a swing guy for us. He could be long relief, maybe be a midweek starter, but he's also a 5th-year guy that what you're going to get out of him when you go to the bullpen. Brandon Leocarius, guy that threw a little bit as a freshman. He's made some progress, probably a JV guy to eat up a lot of JV innings for us this year. Luke McCoy's a freshman. Jack Pletcher, another guy, sophomore, threw a ton of JV innings for us last year, similar to Rossi, made some really big jumps. He's a guy that we think can be one of those bullpen pieces for us. Brian Perrone was injured. He threw some significant innings for us as a freshman last year, redshirt. So he's back athletically as a sophomore this year. Big, strong righty, ton of experience. Whipple Championship at Franklin Regional. We're excited to see Brian back and healthy. Probably another guy that can compete for some leverage innings out of the pen for us. Mark Wechtenheiser, exciting freshman, 6'3", 6'4", tall, lanky guy. I'm not sure where his innings will come from, but he's a guy that we really want to get out there and see how he does, because he's a fierce competitor. Probably, again, another potential bullpen piece, JV inning guy. Zach Herb is like a mid-80s freshman strike thrower. He's one of those guys that, he's not going to wow you, but that he's going to keep you in the game by pounding the zone, competes really well. And then this guy, Christian Zilli.
I know Christian Zilli.
Yeah, so again, our bullpen's going to look
Great kid.
totally
Yeah.
different this year.
Yeah.
Zilly's been kind of bouncing back and forth as a two-way guy, a couple starts at second base last year. He's made some adjustments to his delivery, more of like a sub-sidearm guy. And, when you have a guy who's like starting quarterback and leading scorer on the basketball team and
every time I see him, he either has a basketball or a football in his hands. Not a baseball, but, that just goes to show the three-sport athlete he was at Hempfield, and he still loves to,
So he's got those intangibles of like, you can throw guys like that, competitive guys in the situation like, okay, Christian, bases loaded, nobody out. Come give us a ground ball.
Yeah.
And I don't think it'll phase him. I think he thrives because he's a competitive kid. So he's kind of shifted his focus to just pitching at this point. We don't have many lefties on our staff, but Aiden Barrow-Summers is a freshman lefty. I don't want to spill the beans, but honestly, one of the best off-speed pitches that I've seen at our level in a while. He's still developing, probably get a ton of JV innings this year, but we're excited to have him. Another left-hander, Pete Janoski, is probably going to redshirt, left-handed pitcher from Upper St. Clair. He's a guy we project to hopefully throw a lot of innings for us in the future as a left-hander.
Knowing you lay awake at night thinking of your bullpen and how you're going to work everybody. Right?
Yeah, and as I think about it for 2 months, we get the game day and it all goes to crap.
It all goes to crap anyway. Yeah. Well, but I think again, you kind of, I don't want to say you take for granted those four starters, but you know what you're going to get from them. So you can kind of focus more on maybe some other guys. But Maz, I wanted to ask you though about Andino Vecchiola's performance in the playoffs last year. He pitched in the PSAC championship game. He also pitched in the first game against Mercyhurst in the regional. And he was a guy that wasn't in the rotation all year. He got moved back in the rotation because of, Kevin Voppel's injury. But he really stepped up in a massive way last year.
Yeah, Dino's career has really taken an interesting path when you look at it. As a freshman, he didn't pitch a whole lot. In his sophomore year, he just like burst on the scene. There was a stretch where I thought he was the most dominant pitcher in the PSAC. I think he might have won PSAC Pitcher of the Week in 22 once or twice. Talk about being locked in. And then a little bit of an arm strain towards the second half of 2022. I think we may have actually shut him down at the end of the year. So he didn't pitch in the summer and kind of, took a little bit of while to get back. And he started last year, had a couple rough outings and just got a little bit better as the season went on. And then probably had his most dominant performance in the postseason, picked a good time to have it. Not to put pressure on Dino, but I feel like he's picking up where he left off. He was pretty good in the fall. He's really locked in right now in the spring. I mentioned this in our post-game press conference after that Mercyhurst game. It wasn't a surprise to see him have success because of how invested he is and how he prepares every day.
So we've talked about the players, and now we've got to talk about the coaching staff because you guys had a big loss there too, quite a shakeup with Ty Sullivan leaving. Sully left to take a position at Eastern Michigan. He spent 8 seasons here as a player and a coach. And there's been a Sullivan involved with the program for 11 consecutive seasons, dating back to his brother Brett playing here, who I believe is still the all-time leader in wins.
He is.
Look back at that. Okay,
yep.
Thank you. What an impact that Sully certainly made here.
Yeah, he wore many hats while he was here. He was
literally.
Yeah,
he's a hat guy.
Yeah, he is a hat guy. He was our strength guy, our infield guy. He was our hitting guy. He was our video. He was everything, right? Absolutely everything. He made such an impact on me, my family, our players. He still stays in touch with all of us, and all of our guys stay in touch with him. But he left his mark, and it's been really exciting to see him move on and move up to Division I baseball. And I know he already is making a positive impact at Eastern Michigan.
With his fungo game, right?
Yes.
We got to give him a shout out.
Yeah, the only switch hitting fungo guy in the PSAC.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Vinny Rauso takes over for him, and it seems like, I guess it's never good timing to lose a coach like that. But when you have a lot of new catchers, a lot of young catchers coming in, some ones with maybe some inexperience, great to have Vinny now as a coach. How has he transitioned from a player to a coach?
He's made that transition incredibly well. And to be honest with you, that's something that as the head coach you're nervous about, right? We're asking Vinny to now, coach guys that he just played with.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard transition. To be honest with you, I expected, he was a high energy player. But he's really just kind of been able to make that separation of player to coach. He's built incredible relationships with all of our new guys. I think they love him. And you mentioned this, with us having a new group of catchers, we have 1 redshirt freshman and 3 true freshmen. Clay and I had talked about it over the summer when we realized Sully was leaving, and that was a factor, bringing Vinny back with his catching experience to help mentor this new young group of catchers. It made a lot of sense, and he does have a strength or a exercise science background and a lot of strength and conditioning experience. So it was a really good fit. He took so much pride in wearing the SH, and now he gets to develop the next generation of guys, the next generation of Griffins. He's taken a lot of pride. He's hit the ground running. Guys love him, and it's been a great thing for us.
Yeah, certainly a great fit. And then Clay Martin returns. You mentioned Clay a couple of times as your pitching coach. And, man, you've had some great assistant coaches, Maz.
So spoiled.
Thinking back as long as DJ was here and, Tim Cronin. I know I'm missing many guys here, but now, Clay, the pitching staff has been tremendous under him, haven't they?
Yeah. And you know what? Like, they're all every one of them are just guys I love to hang out with.
Yeah,
too.
right. Yeah.
I don't they are assistant coaches, but I don't even look at them that way. I actually have trouble being their boss, or if you want to call it that, because I just see them as as really close friends and special people in my life. And but they've been so invested. Clay's awesome. We have a volunteer assistant that's joined us this year, Derek Reddy. He's been a really good mentor for our hitters. We're excited to have him on board. And then our unsung hero, Rick Pitzer.
I was going to get to Rick.
Yeah.
He's the true MVP of this team, man.
He sure is.
He really is.
Yeah, he sure is. He's in his 3rd year now, running all the video and data analytics and stats for us. Invaluable contributions from him on a daily basis.
He is incredible, and when he's not working with Seton Hill Baseball, he's working with Westmoreland Sports Network, helping us with our video stuff and just the things that he does, breaking down things, and even setting up our camera way out in the outfield before games, and he's always at the practices and everything. He really is amazing. So big shout out to Rick. He couldn't wait to watch the show either. He said he got his popcorn ready. So attaboy, Ricky.
There's 3 people I didn't mention here.
Go ahead.
Aiden Layton.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Brandon
sure.
Berger.
I mentioned them, and you just kind of went straight to the bullpen. I had the bullpen question after. You just went straight to
John McCullough. Let's just say, they're all awesome.
Yeah.
They're all seasoned veterans, and they're all going to have great years.
They're all going to have great. We're just banking on it, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Let's talk about the PSAC, Maz. What are your expectations when you look at it this year in terms of what you kind of see with veteran teams and maybe younger teams? And you look at the PSAC West. Obviously, it's always you guys at Mercyhurst battling, but there's so many good teams. IUP knocked off Millersville last year in the PSAC tournament, so they're still coming on. And Slippery Rock's always very good, and you can't forget about Gannon with DJ. And so, what do you kind of see it? How do you kind of see it this year?
Well, I'm not super familiar with some of the personnel in the PSAC East this year. Your traditionally good teams over there will probably be the same. I truly believe in the PSAC West. I think this is going to be one of the most talented years ever that we've been part of, in our 10 years in the league. Mercyhurst literally brings back every single player. They were outstanding last year. They've got veteran pitching, veteran hitting. I think they're going to be really good. I think this is Coach Klein's third year, I think. So they've gotten all their new recruits in. They've made a lot of strides in the last 2 years, and now I think this could be their year that they break out. And Gannon brings back a lot of their pitching. They lost a couple of their traditionally, big hitters, but they've got a lot of guys back. Slippery Rock, I think, was just they had a couple injuries last year that really changed their season. They bring a couple guys back, a couple transfers that'll be impactful. I think people are sleeping on Slippery Rock a little bit. I think they're going to be really good. Cal U was really good. They got in a tournament last year with basically all freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah.
They're out, definitely going to be a dangerous team this year. Don't know much about Clarion, new coach. UPJ, I think, brought back some of their main guys. They have some really good front arms back. They had some good young hitters last year that are back. You go up and down the PSAC West, and this is one of those years. I think the league is going to be older and more experienced, which would include us. And I think it's going to be a dogfight.
And certainly, you guys set the record for wins last year. You may not get to that point again, but you may win the division. I mean, just because of how competitive it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were 26-2 in the league last year. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe 20 wins it this year. Right, I think it's going to be pretty close.
Let's talk about your schedule, Maz. You guys head to South Carolina to open against Francis Marion. They've already actually played 6 games this season. They're 4-2. They went 29-25 last season. And I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you know the last time you guys played Francis Marion? The only time. Well, you played a 3-game series against.
Let
me cover up.
We stunk. We got absolutely annihilated.
You did. I don't even have that.
I want to say 2012.
2011.
2011.
Close. Very close.
Yep, it was ugly.
Swept you in a 3-game series.
Actually, and I don't recall the year, but we went back down to Francis Marion to start the season, maybe around 14, 15, 16, something like that. And we got snowed out.
Okay. Yeah.
Spent
so you had
2 days in Florence and never played a game.
You had a game scheduled against them that weekend. So kind of how did it come together, though, to get you guys hooked up this year?
Well, their head coach, Art and Abinette, I've stayed in touch with them for years, ever since we had played them, 10 years ago. They have an absolutely phenomenal facility, and that's always exciting. We want to give our guys a great experience and go play in special places, Tampa and Francis Marion and all these spots. So we knew it was a good opponent and a great facility, and it was far enough south we should get decent weather. Mm-hmm. So that's it. Decided to go play them, and they're apparently off to a really good start.
Yeah, scored some runs.
So it'll be a fun weekend.
Seton Hill returns home then on February 24th and 25th to play Walsh and Ohio Dominican, a pair of doubleheaders, and then the Florida trip where there's some darn good opponents on your schedule. And you mentioned last year, I've been fortunate enough to go with you guys for a decade, and there's many times where maybe you didn't really feel real comfortable about your performance in Florida. Then you come home and you're in Cary at the end of the year. You're winning a conference championship. So I know you're looking for results. Certainly, you're looking to win games. But there's a lot of other factors that go into what you're learning about yourself in Florida, right?
I guess so. But every year when our schedule comes out, I'm like,
yeah.
Am I an idiot? Why am I doing this to our guys?
Tampa, Florida, Southern twice. I don't know. That wasn't exactly how you had it scheduled out initially.
Yeah,
but
Ashland,
you do
Mankato,
Ashland.
And I think Walsh and Ohio Dominican are picked at the top half of their conference. We have a series with Grand Valley. In the middle. I anticipate, you never know, but I anticipate having one of the toughest strength of schedules in the region once again. That helps us a lot. It also hurts us because, we take our lumps like we did last year in Florida. But you like to say and you like to believe that if we play really good competition up front, it will help prepare us and make us better throughout the season. And most years that is the case. We might not have the best record a couple of weeks into the year, but we want to have the best record at the end, and we've been able to do that.
You mentioned Grand Valley State, and then you open the conference play with Mercyhurst.
Yeah.
So, it is absolutely, they call it a meat grinder to begin the year. I always like to see that Mercyhurst series last just because of how exciting it usually is, but you play them first this year.
Yeah, and Erie's a beautiful place in the middle of March.
Especially the middle of March. It's even nicer. So.
Yeah. No, it is. It's that first couple months of the season, we're going to really find out how good or how bad we are.
Yeah. Do you have any bets with DJ this year? You going to put some pizza on the line or anything? Or
Yeah, not yet. I think I still might owe him
You do owe him
Permanis
something,
or
probably.
something. Yeah.
What's the wing place up there? Otis 13 or Otis 16 or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
I went there one time with Greeny. It was amazing. So.
We might have to go double or nothing this year.
Yeah, I like
but
I like that.
Yeah, but if he owes me an ejection too. I took one for the both of us last year.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah,
we'll
that's
see.
True. That's true. He does. Maz, thank you so much, man. This has been just incredible for us. You know, thinking back to that Atlantic Regional again, I know how proud you were to host it. We were so excited to be able to broadcast that. Obviously, we hope it become an annual thing. We'll see, what happens. I know that those expectations probably, that won't come to fruition every single year. But it was so exciting, and to be able to be a part of the Seton Hill family now. This is our 13th year, I think, of broadcasting Seton Hill baseball, to be able to come to all the playoff games with you guys and go to Slippery Rock and Millersville last year, and to be able to do that and see you guys win a PSAC championship. And this really means a lot to me too, getting me a ring. This is just awesome. I even bought a case for it to put on my shelf in my office at home. It really has been incredible. And I can speak for Sean Myers, Bubba, who did a great job last year in color, Roger Downs, who has done so many games for Seton Hill baseball, and of course Greeny too. But this has just been amazing for me personally and for Westmoreland Sports Network to be a part of the Griffins family. So thank you for making me part of the family, and we look forward to another great year this year, buddy.
Well, that's why we do it, man. It's the more the merrier. The further we go, the more work we create for you.
It's all right.
But it's a good thing.
Love it, yeah.
That's what makes this experience for our players so special. They're just not showing up and playing baseball, but they're having it broadcast and all these followers, and the jewelry's a nice perk too. But at the end of the day, I think all the people behind the scenes, outside of the coaches and players, they help make this experience special, and they continue to kind of help promote Seton Hill. And I'm so thankful for what you do and the rest of your crew. And I probably speak on behalf of our alumni, because that they're tuned into your broadcast.
Well, I was going to say,
weekend.
I had a chance to go to the alumni event. When was that? Back in December down in Pittsburgh. There was a lot of guys there, and it was great to it's really awesome to see the guys that we broadcast, but also see the guys that were playing for you before we started broadcasting. And I feel like I broadcast their games too, because of how much they've tuned in, and how much we've talked over the years, and it just really needs such a tight community. It really is.
Well, keep that third week in May. Keep your schedule clear,
It'll be clear,
and hopefully
buddy.
we'll give you some more work here up on the hill.
No doubt about it. You can watch Seton Hill baseball all season long on the Westmoreland Sports Network. I'm not exactly sure what the early broadcast schedule looks like for us in terms of those home doubleheaders that you have. What I do know is all of the conference games will be all the home conference games, will be broadcast on live video. We'll have every single playoff game on our network as well. The Florida trip, it looks like we might have to miss that first game, and then the rest of the games will be broadcast live on the network. And, of course, you can follow live stats and things like that. But we really have a lot of fun with it, get a chance to interview players, interview Maz before pretty much every game. And so we hope everybody tunes in all season.
Yeah, thanks for the interview, Dan. This is our big kickoff.
Yeah.
We're officially fired up for game number 1. So thank you for all you do, and looking forward to another great year.
Have a safe trip to South Carolina, my friend.
We will. Thank you.
That is Coach Mark Marizaldi of the Seton Hill Griffins. Again, Seton Hill opens up, depending on when you're watching this, the season this weekend against Francis Marion in a 3-game series. And I believe they have live video, definitely live stats. I think I saw that they do have live video as well. So check out the Griffins in 2024. This has been the 2024 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.